Every increase in possessions demands an increase in attention. And attention, once divided, never fully returns. We've spoken before about effort, about discipline, about progress. But today, we look at something more subtle, something most people never measure. Attention is the most finite resource you possess. Not time, not money. Attention. Watch carefully how modern life extracts it. Each object asks to be managed. Each choice asks to be maintained. Each convenience quietly negotiates for space inside your mind. This is not about clutter on shelves. It's about clutter in cognition. Psychology tells us that the mind does not register ownership as neutral. To own is to monitor. To monitor is to fragment focus. And so, without noise, without crisis, without warning, life becomes busy, but not meaningful. Extreme minimalism does not begin with removing things. It begins with noticing what your attention has been trained to serve. And once you see that clearly, you can no longer unsee it. Minimalism is often introduced as a reaction, a response to excess, a rebellion against clutter. But extreme minimalism did not emerge from frustration alone. It emerged from observation. Across cultures and eras, humans have repeatedly reached the same quiet conclusion. There is a threshold beyond which accumulation stops improving life and begins to dilute it. Philosophy noticed this long before psychology measured it. Stoics spoke of sufficiency, Buddhists of attachment. Even early economists warned that unchecked consumption creates diminishing returns, not progress. Yet modern society inverted the equation. We were taught that more options mean more freedom. More possessions mean more security. More convenience means more time. And for a brief moment, this appears true. But then something curious happens. As possessions increase, decision-making slows. As choices multiply, satisfaction weakens. As comfort grows, clarity fades. Extreme minimalism does not reject modern life. It studies it, carefully, patiently, and asks a sharper question. At what point does improvement become interference? This is why extreme minimalism is spreading quietly, not loudly. Not as a trend, but as a correction. Those who adopt it are not chasing emptiness. They are reclaiming cognitive space. They are reducing the number of things competing for their attention, their identity, their energy. Not to live with nothing, but to live undistracted. Minimalist living, at its extreme, is not an aesthetic choice. It is a psychological one. A philosophy of intentional living where every possession must justify the attention it consumes. And once life is viewed through that lens, the old promise of more is better begins to sound unexamined. This is where the philosophy of less is more stops being poetic and starts becoming practical. Modern life rarely feels oppressive. That is precisely the problem. Pressure today does not arrive as force. It arrives as permission. Permission to upgrade. Permission to optimize. Permission to never quite be finished. Consumer culture no longer shouts at us. It whispers constantly. And the human nervous system was never designed for whispers that never stop. Psychology shows that stress is not caused by difficulty alone, but by unresolved mental loops. Open tasks, unmade decisions, objects waiting for attention. Every item you own represents a small, unfinished conversation with your future self. Maintenance, storage, replacement, upgrading, letting go. Individually, these demands are insignificant. Collectively, they create cognitive debt. This is why decluttering often feels emotional rather than logical. You are not sorting objects. You are closing loops. Minimalism, when misunderstood, appears to be about reducing visible clutter. But the real strain has never been visual. It is psychological weight. An environment dense with possessions trains the mind to scan, evaluate, and manage constantly. Even in rest, the brain remains slightly alert. This is not anxiety, it is low-grade vigilance. And vigilance, sustained over years, erodes clarity. Extreme minimalism enters precisely here, not as an aesthetic preference, but as a response to chronic overstimulation. It challenges the assumption that convenience is neutral, that abundance is harmless, that ownership is passive, because in reality, ownership is interactive. Everything you keep continues to participate in your mental life. This is why many people feel exhausted without obvious cause. Why simplicity feels relieving before it even makes sense. Why letting go produces calm faster than acquiring ever did. The challenge, then, is not excess objects. It is excess obligation. Extreme minimalism recognizes that freedom is not found in having fewer things, but in having fewer things asking something from you. And until that is understood, stress will continue to feel like a personal failure, rather than the predictable outcome of an overloaded system. Extreme minimalism is often mistaken for restraint. In reality, it is precision. It asks not, how little can I live with, but how little must I manage to function at my best? This distinction matters. Most people approach minimalism emotionally, decluttering in bursts, purging in frustration, chasing relief. Extreme minimalists move differently. They reduce systematically, guided by psychology rather than impulse. Here, subtraction becomes a form of intelligence. Every object is evaluated not by usefulness alone, but by the quality of attention it demands. Some possessions are heavy despite being small. Others are light despite being numerous. Extreme minimalism recognizes this asymmetry and works with it. This is why the philosophy does not begin in closets. It begins in identity. When identity is tied to ownership, letting go feels like loss. When identity is tied to capability, letting go feels like refinement. Minimalist living at this level requires a shift in mindset, from accumulation as security to simplicity as resilience. This is where philosophy and psychology intersect. Cognitive science shows that the brain performs best with clear constraints. Artists create better with limited palettes. Thinkers reason better with fewer variables. Athletes perform better with disciplined routines. Extreme minimalism applies this principle to life itself. By deliberately narrowing inputs, objects, commitments, distractions, mental bandwidth expands. Not because life becomes empty, but because signal rises above noise. This is why extreme minimalists often report unexpected benefits. Faster decision-making, emotional steadiness, deeper focus, and a stronger sense of agency. Not motivation, agency. The ability to act without internal resistance. This is also where intentional living emerges naturally, not as a rulebook, but as a byproduct. When fewer things compete for attention, values clarify on their own. Choices align more easily. Energy stops leaking. Sustainable living, in this context, is not environmental branding. It is behavioral economics applied to the self. You consume less because you need less. And you need less because your life is no longer structured around constant management. Extreme minimalism is therefore not anti-modern. It is post-excess. It accepts the tools of modern life, then removes everything that interferes with personal growth. What remains is not austerity, but a form of quiet strength. A minimalist lifestyle that does not announce itself, yet reshapes how time, attention, and effort are spent. And this is the turning point. Because once subtraction is understood as discipline rather than sacrifice, the philosophy of less is more stops being inspirational and starts becoming executable. There is a moment extreme minimalists often describe. Not dramatically, not emotionally, but with a kind of calm surprise. Nothing extraordinary happens. No celebration. No sudden happiness. No announcement that life has changed. Instead, one day arrives without friction. Decisions feel lighter. Mornings move faster. The mind stops rehearsing explanations it no longer needs. This is the moment when people realize they are no longer managing their lives. They are inhabiting them. One individual described it this way. I didn't gain time. I stopped losing it. Another noticed something more subtle. Their emotional reactions softened. Irritation appeared less often. Rest felt deeper, even without more sleep. These are not motivational stories. They are neurological ones. When the environment stops demanding attention, the nervous system recalibrates. Extreme minimalism creates conditions where the mind no longer expects interruption. And in that absence, something rare emerges. Psychological safety. This is why extreme minimalists often feel wealthier without earning more. not because they romanticize less, but because their internal economy stabilizes. Energy is no longer scattered. Desire is no longer reactive. Simplicity stops feeling like effort. Minimalism benefits appear not as excitement, but as steadiness. This is also where personal growth accelerates quietly. With fewer distractions, self-reflection deepens. With fewer commitments, intention sharpens. With fewer possessions, identity loosens its grip on objects. People don't become monks. They become available. Available to think clearly. Available to respond rather than react. Available to choose. This is the turning point most discussions miss. Extreme minimalism does not give you a new life. It removes the interference preventing you from accessing the one you already have. And once that clarity appears, returning to excess no longer feels indulgent. It feels inefficient. Extreme minimalism, when stripped of trends and aesthetics, reveals something far more enduring. It is not a lifestyle of less. It is a lifestyle of alignment. When possessions, commitments, and habits are reduced to what truly matters, life stops pulling in opposing directions. Clarity replaces urgency. Simplicity replaces strain. Intentional living replaces automatic behavior. The philosophy of less is more is not moral advice. It is a strategic one. By choosing fewer inputs, you gain stronger outputs. By removing noise, you amplify signal. By letting go deliberately, you recover the attention required for personal growth. This is why extreme minimalism feels radical in a culture built on accumulation. Not because it rejects comfort, but because it refuses distraction. A minimalist mindset does not ask you to live smaller. It asks you to live cleaner, cognitively, emotionally, deliberately. And perhaps the most important realization is this. Letting go is not loss. It is reallocation. Time returns. Energy stabilizes. Focus sharpens. This is true wealth, not measured in objects, but in how freely your mind can move through the day. If this way of thinking resonates, take a moment to reflect. What currently asks for your attention without giving anything meaningful back? Share your thoughts in the comments, not as a declaration, but as an observation. And if you'd like to continue this exploration, the next video goes deeper into how intentional subtraction reshapes daily decisions. Until then, remember, a clutter-free life is not an empty one. It is a life finally allowed to breathe.